All right, hello everyone. Again, this is the Diving Deeper workshop as part of the Focus on Fulbright series over the summer. Today we're looking at the statement of grant purpose and what it is, what it isn't, and how you can potentially frame your statement of grant purpose for your Fulbright application and some things to keep in mind. So what are our goals for this session? So our goals are to understand best practices for writing a compelling statement of grant purpose, reflect on your interests, goals, and experience as they might relate to Fulbright, so doing a little bit more reflecting. And then finally, giving and receiving substantive feedback on your statement of grant purpose essay draft. So let's go ahead and start by framing Fulbright. Like what is this Fulbright that you're applying for? What kinds of things are they looking for? What are their values? And how can you understand those in a way that helps you write a compelling application essay that also reflects your values and interests? So one thing important to remember about Fulbright is that it is the vehicle, not the destination. So when you're framing your Fulbright application, you really want to focus on how Fulbright is helping you to do the thing that you want to do. So if you're planning to go to graduate school, Fulbright is the funding vehicle by which you're going to earn your graduate degree or do your research project or gain teaching skills in an English language classroom. So thinking about it as the vehicle and not a goal in and of itself is really helpful when you're thinking about how to approach your Fulbright application. And then another big question is, why should Fulbright in particular be the funding source for the program or project rather than something else? So there are plenty of other fellowships out there. There are university-specific fellowships and area-specific fellowships. You could go to school in the US. So why should Fulbright, with its mission of mutual understanding, basically pay for this opportunity for you? So thinking about why specifically you chose Fulbright to apply for funding. Consider how your proposed program ties into the Fulbright mission. So again, Fulbright is all about mutual understanding. I'll mention that probably 3 or 4 more times before we actually get into the peer review session. It's that important. So you're thinking about how you're going to feed into Fulbright's mission to increase mutual understanding between the peoples of the US and the peoples of your host country, and to build world peace, basically, through those relationships and to really enhance understanding across the globe. So how is your proposed program, your proposed project going to help further that mission? And remember, Fulbright is all about finding your fit. And the most compelling application is going to be the application that makes the most sense. So if you're going to, for example, Mario, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. If you're going to do work with Anne Frank's legacy, going to Amsterdam and going to the Netherlands and working with the Anne Frank House, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good fit. If you were thinking of going to work on Anne Frank's legacy in rural Mongolia, you might have to convince me a little bit more as to why that makes sense. So you really want to think about how your Fulbright project fits and why this place is the best place for you and why Fulbright is the best funding mechanism to fund your program. So to sum all that up, I like to call this the Fulbright Fit Funnel, patent pending. And so basically when you're thinking about Fulbright, you want to think about why you, what are your qualifications, what are your experiences, what are your passions and interests and academic background that have prepared you for this experience? What makes you, you? Why did you pick this specific location? So again, we talk about specifics. You don't have to have a extremely niche interest, but why did you pick the UK and not France or Germany or South Africa? What was it about this location that drew you there? And that can be a program, so a specific research opportunity or faculty member you could work with, a specific university, or it could be a more specific interest in the culture and the country, or even the geography or something like that of the location that you've chosen. Why does this program in particular draw your attention? Why are you doing research instead of pursuing a graduate degree or planning to do an ETA when you have a business degree? Like, why does this make sense for you? Why is now a really good time for you to do this? So I know a lot of you said you're recent graduates. That's a great kind of time frame for Fulbright in really finding a way to go abroad and to build your skill sets before embarking maybe on a professional career or further research or further study. That can be a really good kind of inflection point, and Fulbright can tie in there. Of course, Fulbright is not exclusively like that kind of gap year program. And remember, it's the vehicle, not the goal in and of itself. But if you're, for example, contemplating a career change, maybe doing an ETA might be a good way to test out whether or not teaching is right for you, using the skill sets you gained from a different industry that you are already a part of. So you can get a little bit creative with why now is the best time for you to do this. And then finally, why did you specifically pick Fulbright? What about their mission really spoke to you? What makes you excited? How do you like check off those different boxes that are on the program specific page that you've selected? So thinking about those things as you're moving forward. But then again, another framing tool, and I just went to a conference, so this is a newer tool that I'm adding to the toolkit. Let me know what you think. And so when we're thinking about Fulbright, we don't want to just think about what we're going to get from the experience, what we're going to take from the country, because that kind of perpetuates those kind of older, out of fashion, kind of borderline, sketchy relationships where folks would come into different countries, take their knowledge, take their resources, and then leave without actually sharing or giving back. So as you're thinking of Fulbright, you want to think of it as that mutual relationship, that sharing, that understanding. So in addition to what you're hoping to get from this experience, what are you hoping to give during this experience? What are you hoping to share? And again, Fulbright is very much about sharing your culture as an American citizen going to another country and being a citizen ambassador. So here we have an adaptation of what they call the rhetorical triangle. And so basically you're looking at how does your purpose fit in with Fulbright's purpose, fit in with the community that you're going to's purpose. So if you think about all of these different elements, then you'll be able to build a strong argument for why you are applying for this particular location. So think about, why do I want to go overseas? Why am I going to this specific location, this specific program? What's my motivation? What's my purpose in undertaking this Fulbright? And why does Fulbright or the fellowship reviewer want Americans to go overseas? What are their goals? What are their interests in funding this program? Where do those interests intersect and overlap? And then finally, you are going to be living in a community. This is a year-long program. You're going to be living and working and doing your project in a community in another country. So what does that community want from your time with them? Why do they want Americans to come live, study, research with them? What are they hoping to gain by that experience? So if you think about all of those different pieces, that will help you build your argument for why you should be awarded a Fulbright. So that will help you to create a feasible, which is a big part of Fulbright, a feasible and ethical proposal. So not really looking at that. I came up with this word. I was having trouble with it earlier. It's not extractive relationship. There we go. So try not to have that kind of win-lose sort of mentality, that taking away, but also that sharing of your own experiences, your own knowledge and skill sets, and your experience being an American abroad. So really thinking about those things in a more holistic way. So to the statement of grant purpose in particular, some things to remember is that it outlines the specific who, what, where, how, and why of your proposed experience. So it really is heavy on the what and the how, and a little bit lighter on the why. That's more of a personal statement thing, but you still do want to say, okay, this is going to help me accomplish X, Y, or Z goal, or is the next step on my way to wherever you're going. So really thinking about the what, where, how, and why, and the who, which of course is you. Remember your audience. So when you're thinking about Fulbright review, there are a couple of different stages. The first stage is going to be American reviewers who are typically faculty members who are either in your discipline, are experts in the area that you've chosen, have other kind of expertise that's applicable to your application. So you're going to be writing to American faculty, and then also kind of Fulbright in general. And then if you are selected to go on to the second round of review, then you are actually sent to the host country commission. So you are writing both for an American audience and for the host country commission, which is made up of a joint review panel of Americans and commission, like local commission Fulbright folks. So you do want to make sure that you're keeping those audiences in mind as you're drafting your application. And do remember that these are what we like to call everyday smart people. So they're people who are very knowledgeable, who are worldly and well-read, and all those kind of things that you say about folks that are generally academically initiated. So they have a wide range of experience, a wide range of expertise. However, they may not be an expert in your specific discipline. So especially for my STEM folks, you may want to write your statement grant purpose a little bit more broadly, or define any terms that you use that are really jargon heavy, that are specific to your discipline, that someone might not understand coming from outside, even if they're well-read, even if they've had a lot of exposure to, I guess, knowledge sharing in general. But you want to just keep in mind that everyday smart people. So you want to keep it broad enough that people can understand what you're talking about, but specific enough so you can explain what you're doing. And that can get a little bit tricky, so feel free to ask if you have a question about those specific types of things, how to frame or to phrase certain things. That's what advisors can help with. And the best practices are to be clear and concise. You do only have 1 to 2 pages. For ETAs, the statement grant purpose is 1 page, single space, 12-point font, 1-inch margins. And then for our research and study folks, it is 2 pages within those same parameters. So it's not a ton of space. When you're first drafting or when you're continuing to draft, I would opt to kind of put the page requirement to the side, make sure you're drafting all the things you want to get into your Fulbright application. And it's much easier to go back and edit down than it is to try and self-edit as you're writing and then try and bulk it up. Once you get to the end, you're like, oh, I have 4 paragraphs, and that's not it. So really make sure that you're putting enough down on the page that you have something to work with as you're going through the editing process. But in the end, they do want you to be clear. They want you to be concise. And that's kind of the priority of Fulbright. And to that end, do make sure you organize your statement carefully, having intro paragraph, of course, kind of the 5-paragraph model, but thinking about keeping each paragraph focused on a topic so that you can, again, fully explore that and make it make sense to the reader, because you really want to make sure that you don't make your reviewers guess at or search for information. That's probably one of the biggest comments I have on folks' applications when I read them is, okay, so there's obviously something here. There's obviously something that is compelling the student to apply for Fulbright. I don't know what it is. I can kind of guess maybe what it is, or they might have had this related experience over here, but it's not clear. So making sure that you're not making your reviewers search for information. And then I may have mentioned it already, but make it make sense. That's kind of the biggest thing. It's like, why is this your next logical step? And remember, Fulbright is more than study abroad. So study abroad, again, is a very valuable experience. It's not a Fulbright experience. Fulbright is all about going to the community and engaging in this mutual understanding, the citizen diplomacy, and also teaching English, doing research, or getting a graduate degree. So make sure that you're making a clear and compelling argument as to why Fulbright is the next logical step for you. So just making it make sense. I think that might actually be that's the next bullet point. Make it make sense. As you're thinking about it, consider questions like, why wouldn't a similar opportunity in the US work as well for you? That's a big question I always ask when I'm looking at Fulbright is, could you do this in the United States? Why are you not? And that can be helpful to building your case for why you're going to your particular location. And then finally, how does this experience fit with your whole plan? What are you going to use this experience to do? How are you going to continue that mutual understanding beyond the year of your Fulbright funding? Make it make sense. And as you are thinking about this, keeping in mind that you're going to be evaluated on 3 main points. So the first point is going to be the feasibility of your project or activity proposal and clarity of grant purpose. So why are you going on Fulbright and what are you going to do there? So making sure that it makes sense, And also that you can accomplish it within that year. You only have a year. You have a year, but you only have a year. So you're not going to single-handedly like refurbish an entire mansion or I don't know, like earn a PhD in 1 year. That's not feasible. That's not what you're going to do. So thinking about the ways that your Fulbright is practical, that you can accomplish it, and it makes sense to be able to do it in a single year. So again, make it make sense and make sure you're not making your reviewers search for that information. The second evaluation criterion is going to be sufficient background. So that's basically saying sufficient background to accomplish what you say you're going to. That includes academic preparation, professional and co-curricular experiences, and language skills to successfully carry out your project. So if you're proposing to do a research project and you've never done research before, or you're trying to interview mothers in a German hospital, do you speak German? Do you know how to get into a hospital? Do you know like what the parameters are around visiting? Do you know how you can get approval for interviewing mothers? Do you need the equivalent of an IRB? So kind of making sure that you have the skill sets that you need to be able to do your project. And if you're applying for a graduate program, do you have a bachelor's? And what, hopefully you would by that point. And like, how is what you learned in your undergraduate degree going to help prepare you and serve you in your graduate degree? So again, just thinking about those different things. And for those ETA folks, thinking about the different skill sets you have, and it doesn't have to be exclusively teaching. You can think about, oh, I've done presentations at work, or I've managed teams before. And that's how I can take this skill set and transfer it to the classroom, and just making that clear. That's what they mean by sufficient background. And of course, if you have language skills, make sure that you are highlighting those and making sure that if you see that a language skill is a requirement, that means it is a requirement for your application to be viewed at all. So making sure that you meet that. And then to be competitive, you'll want to probably have a slightly higher language ability than the minimum requirement. But of course, if you're doing like Spain, hopefully you would have a higher level of Spanish. That's going to make you a little bit more competitive. But again, it all depends on kind of the full package of you as a Fulbrighter. And then finally, they are looking for evidence of personal adaptability, a compelling motivation for pursuing Fulbright, and a clear connection to future goals. Again, Fulbright in like a nutshell, at the end of the day, it is a cultural ambassadorship program. So they're looking for folks who want to share their American culture with folks overseas and to learn more about the people of their host community. So making sure that that's clear throughout your application, and that has a clear connection to why you're doing this and what it's going to prepare you for in the future. So that was a lot. I'm going to pause, and I'm actually going to end the recording here. So thank you for that.